All right, welcome back to the Unstuck Movement, True Testimonies of Breakthrough. I am your host, Rob Z. Today we have the wonderful and incredible Rhonda Parker Taylor with us on the podcast. I'd like to jump in right away, Rhonda, with a powerful question right off the bat. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that you're excited. I want to give some people some value right off the jump. What is the best thing that you can do when you're at a crossroads in your life or your business? What's your go-to thing, the thing that makes the biggest impact?
Identify the challenging limited belief. So what happens so many times when you're at a crossroads, you have your own limiting beliefs about something. It could be about your abilities, your skills, the direction, but when you have an obstacle in front of you, most of the time what's in our minds is what limits us. Write down the limiting beliefs. What is that challenge? What are your thoughts about that challenge? How are you holding yourself back for making the crossroads? One thing I learned when I was writing my fiction novel, Crossroads, is that we all have limiting beliefs and self-doubt. And when we don't challenge those beliefs or don't challenge what's ahead of us and find the evidence that's the strengths or the past achievements that we can build upon, then the potential for overcoming those challenges and making the right decision in that crossroads is limited. We have to have empowering affirmations of which direction you go. And that may take some time to get the research done.
Yeah, and you have to say the things out loud. This is interesting, isn't it interesting? Because uh, we talk a lot in our own heads, and something might sound really good in your own head, but until you say it out loud, you don't know if it's actually good or not, right? So you can say, I mean, you can tell yourself great things inside of your head, but there is so much power in speaking those things out loud to help them come into existence. And I firmly believe that myself. So that's really, really good. And I'm curious what this was for you, that limited belief, the big limited belief that helped you, that the awareness of a big limited belief that led you to a giant breakthrough. Before we go there, I want to just welcome everybody here. This platform was created to help you break the chains that are holding you back in your life or your business. That's why I bring on guests who have had incredible stories of breakthrough. They were stuck in a mess. They got through that mess and it became a message that they impact the world with. We're sponsored by the Connected Leaders Academy. Over 400 amazing heart-centered entrepreneurs from around the world, all serving and helping each other grow. If you want to find out more, go to connectedleadersacademy.com. And also, if you are somebody who's an expert in your field and you want to be the go-to authority in your industry, you want to leave a lasting impact on people's lives with a platform that you create. You want to be connected to incredible people in your industry, incredible people in your world that can change your life. I would love to help you launch your own platform. Check out my website, robzwentz.com. Sign up for the waitlist for the Pro Podcaster Academy and get started today. And today we have the wonderful Rhonda Parker Taylor with us. She's an American author, entrepreneur, and academic researcher. She combines storytelling with life lessons, offering a unique perspective on resilience and balance. So, Rhonda, I'm curious, one of those big limiting beliefs for you, what was it?
I'm going to say self-doubt and self-talk. Because what happened in my life is I was a social person. So I never thought of myself as smart, capable in my younger years. And as I started finding out that I was, and that I had bought into a narrative that limited me, I realized I had to set clear expectations for myself, foster an environment around myself that allowed me to have actionable steps and people around me that supported me. Sometimes I did better than others, and sometimes I did wonderful. And sometimes, we all have failures too. So to get unstuck and get into the movement of doing something that you need to do and break through, it requires yourself to be completely self-aware of where you are in your life and what that miracle life looks like. And that miracle life is the one that has your purpose, your passion, your ability to thrive. And it always means we have to embrace the successes and the failures and learn from those so that we have the opportunity to improve.
Very, very true. I'm curious, you on your own personal journey, who was the old Rhonda? How would the old Rhonda show up? And what did you actually like really practically have to change in order for you to show up differently like you're showing up today?
So the young version of me put a lot of emphasis on the physical and on looks and on the social and believing in others and thinking that others were going to help me succeed. And so what ended up happening is first, as you age, the physical is different. And then when you're putting the beliefs in others to make you successful, you find out that guess what? The one that's supposed to make you successful is you. My dad would tell us when we were younger, if it's meant to be, it's up to you. And of course, because he was a self-made person, he would say it's up to me, not you. But I have to put the you in there because it's all of us. If it's meant to be, it's up to me, it's up to you, it's up to anybody out there in the audience that just feels like they're stuck. We feel stuck when we're not moving in the direction that we're intended to be, but maybe we're doing it because out of necessity, and we've all done that. But for me, that younger self was waiting for the person to help me. I think a lot of women fall into that, where we want the knight in shining armor. We want this, we want that. And we think that people are going to be loyal and true. And I'm not talking about relationships. I'm talking about for success too. And you realize in it that, wait a minute, I have to put the team together that's going to be this way. I have to know what skills are required for me to be successful. And when you learn that, and that you learn that sometimes those crossroads means that you have to make some cuts. Think of an NFL football team, an NBA team, WNBA, baseball. They have preseason for a reason. That preseason is to watch those behaviors. So look around at the network of people around you and look at how they treat each other. And then you can say, okay, what skills do they have? Do they have the strength to help me build this business? Do they have the skills? And when you do that, all of a sudden you realize there might be some people that have to be cut. Doesn't mean you can't be friends. Doesn't mean that you can't do other things with those individuals, but they may not have your success in their hands. The success has to be in your hands, which means if it's meant to be, it's up to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's really that simple, but it's really that hard too, right? Because it's so many times that you want to, even as you're, I'm a leadership coach. This is something that I do, and a communication coach, and I help people with becoming better leaders in their lives. But even in my own personal life, I'll find myself wanting to give my power over to somebody else.
Oh, definitely.
Because it can be a lot easier. I don't feel like making all these decisions. I don't feel like I want to be the person responsible for this. So it's a constant practice of constantly reminding yourself, wait a minute, if I'm giving my power away, that might feel good in the moment, right? It's like the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, right? So if I do it now, I'm going to feel good in the moment. I took the pressure off myself. I gave it to somebody else. I'm going to let them handle it. But that's going to come later on. It's going to be regret later on when I'm not in control of my own destiny. I'm not in control of my own future because I handed it off to somebody else. And it's something that we hear so often, Rhonda. I think, at least in my world and your world, I hear these things all the time, right? You're in control of your own destiny, in control of your own life. We hear it, but it's like, okay, but what do I actually do moment to moment, day to day? What do you do on a daily basis to make sure you are in charge of your own destiny?
I have to remind myself, and I have found that I have to be a creature of habit and do certain things in certain order to make sure that I'm holding myself accountable. And then I have accountability partners.
Mm.
One of them happens to be my sister. She holds me accountable. If I say I'm doing something and then she hasn't heard anything about it, she will directly ask me, what happened to this project? Or what happened to you doing this? Are you still walking? Because your doctor did tell you that, if you didn't continue to walk, that your health would deteriorate, whatever it might be. you know you have to have those things, that practice in place, and you have to have self-compassion for me means that I realize what I need to do, and if I get out of the side of the box, instead of beating myself up about it, I just get back on the horse. We were all watched the cowboy and Indians movies when we were young, and you would see the person trying to train a horse, and the person would be thrown off, and they keep on working with it. The most beneficial thing you can do is practice self-compassion
Mhm.
and be able to take yourself and really keep up with the tasks and the risks that are involved in your own life. When you don't take account for the important things, the priorities in your life, there are some things that that are just not that important, that we're putting a lot of priority on. And
Mhm.
when we do that, we're taking it away from the areas that really have high priority. So when you're self-aware of both internal and external um, areas of your life, your job, your business, your leadership, and those around you, remember, this is a podcast to learn about breakthroughs as a leader. If you are a leader, you must understand those around you and the struggles that they have going on too, to get full productivity and quality out of your employees. You
Mhm.
can't have a organization that doesn't have self-compassion and compassion for others. Empathy is a huge part of being a leader. So for me, it's understanding that self-awareness, and then learning about yourself in that reflection, and realizing you've had successes and failures and learning from them.
Yeah. And when it comes to leadership, we often do just think of it in the framework of our business, of the place that we work. But really, truly, if we're going to be worth anything in our life, we have to be the leader of our own life in every single aspect. And it has to start personally before it can even go to professionally. That's why we have in our society such a bad or poor example of what leadership is, because we think of our bosses and our managers being leaders, and they probably have never been trained in true leadership. And even if they've been trained in true leadership, they're probably, and I don't want to say for all of them, but they're probably not practicing personal leadership in their own life, right? So we have a lot of people who think leadership is telling other people what to do, when true leadership is understanding yourself, leading yourself so that you have high integrity and high self-esteem. You keep your promises to yourself. And therefore, when you come in contact with other people, because I think sometimes we feel like leadership is something that is deserved as a role. Like, I'm a leader, you better listen to me. But it's really something earned. If you're a true leader, people are going to follow you no matter what, because of how you carry yourself. And the reason you carry yourself a certain way is because of what you do when nobody's looking, right? Working on those limited beliefs, working on those things that you could choose not to work on them, and nobody would really maybe notice on the surface in most scenarios, but you would notice, and so for you, what is one of those big things, that, and you said limiting beliefs, but getting a little bit more specific on that, something that is for you, wow, I really had to work on this, and now that I do work on this, I know and notice that people show up differently in my life. Is there something you can point to?
Oh, definitely. So when you're leading or yourself and others, you have to realize the impact that you have. And if you have any fixed mindsets, you're raised with certain ideas and concepts. And in the United States, especially, what we end up doing is we have an I mentality. I want this. I do that. I succeeded. I did that. And when you have these fixed mindsets that don't include others, you can't transform anything.
Mm.
So when you're doing that, you have to realize that not only your limiting beliefs and your fixed mindsets that limit your ability to be successful and perform can be anything. It can be, I'm getting too old. I'm not good enough. And in my case, I always questioned my skills. I was never known as the brightest bulb in the bunch. I was never going to be an Einstein. I was never going to be good in math. I can do, especially with all the technology today, I can do statistics. But in the younger years, you could ask my math teacher in high school, Mr. Fleetwood, if he sees this, he is on all my social media. So Mr. Fleetwood would tell me, you can do this, Rhonda. You just have to apply yourself. And those limited beliefs and those fixed mindsets had already convinced me I couldn't do it. Now I have a doctorate in business. I got my MBA, so it's like, how could I ever have thought that with those limited beliefs? It took a few good teachers, mentors, in my younger years, and then going to college and having some successes underneath my belt, and then not fearing change anymore. I had to change what I looked like. When I said look like, I'm not talking about physical, except for when I took on a project in Washington, D.C., and it was called Washington Workshops. And at that time I didn't have to wear glasses. Now I do. I asked my doctor for glasses because I didn't think anybody would take me seriously. And because they didn't, because I was just an average student from an average area and from the Midwest, Indiana. So I was not what they would have thought would be excelling. So I had to not be fearful of change and dedicate my stagnant spaces and thoughts and realize that I could be in discomfort and be successful. And then I read Daniel Goleman's book on emotional intelligence that told me IQ didn't matter. It was the EQ. And then it was all history after that. EQ is those soft skills that allows you to be successful at when you learn to manage other people's emotions and your own emotions in the room, you can get the best out of any team.
Yeah. Well, perfectly said. Very well said. That's very good and very, very true. And yes, your EQ is more important than your IQ. And I love that. Powerful stuff. So listen, we have to jump for 1 minute into the sponsor of the podcast. When we come back, though, you have a new book coming out. What is the title of the new book?
Journey to Life Balance. And then it's based off of my fiction novel, Crossroads.
You talked about before we started, you talked about the 13 dimensions of life for life balance. Mm-hmm. I want to find out these 13 dimensions of life, and we want to find balance and harmony in our life. Which one of those dimensions come first? And I want to know why. We're going to talk about that in 60 seconds when we come back. Are you struggling to make consistent, valuable content for yourself? Do you want to have an efficient and effective way to create content that attracts the people that you want to connect with in life, the people you want to build relationships with in business? Do you want to be the go-to authority at what you do, at what you're great at? Would it be helpful for you if you had a platform that connects you to incredible people in your industry? The kind of platform that gets you leads and lands you clients without you having to beat down anybody's door or blow up anybody's inbox. Whether you're already creating content or you're desiring to start and it's something that's been kind of burning inside of you for a while, I urge you and encourage you to check out the Pro Podcaster Academy. Get started right now. Join the waitlist at robzwentz.com.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world globally. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, join the Connected Leaders Academy today. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JASCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So, Rhonda, just curious, we're talking about 13 dimensions of life and life balance. Which one of these, well, I guess list a couple of these dimensions and how you describe these. Which one of those does come first or should come first for you?
For me, it's the vision. And I call it a life balance wheel. You have the 13 dimensions. And if you think about your life, it looks like this, and it's also the cover of my new book, if I can get it in there. You have to be balanced, but at the same time, you have all these things going on, and it just weighs your body down at all times. It weighs your heart down, your emotions down. All of these are part of it. Your personal integrity can be challenged. You have a spiritual part of you. Are you connected to it? You have to have self-care. You can't forget that, because your body remembers everything. And then you have financial management that you have to worry about. You have your professional pursuits that you have to worry about. You have your life satisfaction. Are you getting the full thing out of life? And then you have to think about, what about the social part of your life? Are you actually connecting with your loved ones? What happens when you put too much into one thing? So although those aren't all 13 of them, they're all important. And when we don't actually spend time in every one of those realms, we feel unsatisfied. So the very first thing I say is create the vision. When you create the vision, and you can apply this personally or professionally at your job, because when you think about it, we all have that too in the leadership realm. But when you go through and you actually say, okay, for all of these areas, what does my life look like if it were perfect? Make that miracle happen tomorrow in your head. Then you prioritize them. What is the most important? I was sharing with you earlier before we went online that one of the times that I did this workbook for myself, I had just been told that I was pre-diabetic. And I had just been told if I didn't change, because I had been born with a defect in my heart, and if I didn't change some of the things that was going on in my life, I was literally going to be turned into a chair, because I was sitting too much. I was way too inactive. Even though I was active in a lot of different things, I wasn't getting the number of steps in that the CDC says I should do. I wasn't standing enough. And you know what? I did turn into a chair because I didn't change it quick enough. I went to the chiropractor, and the next thing they told me was, you have pyrphemoris. I looked it away and said, butt wasting away. Oh, who wants a butt wasting away? None of us want a butt wasting away, but I was unbalanced.
Yeah.
So depending on where you are in your life, you might put a priority and more time in one area or another. I had to start scheduling 3 to 5 miles of walking a day to change the trajectory of my health that year. But then once I got it into a practice, I was able to say, wait a minute, now I want to, really focus on, other areas of my life, like my emotional growth and intellectual growth. And guess what? Then I started doing podcasts and stuff to actually grow, because I was growing in every other way, but I wasn't distributing the knowledge to myself and sharing in these resources. All you out there that are watching, I know you're watching out there. I want you to do something. Think of all the resources that you could use for your intellectual growth that can make it easy. You could be sitting at your desk listening to Unstuck movement all the time, and you can put that as a priority. Share, like, and save, so that you can make sure you get tips quickly and then bring that into your intellectual growth. It could be anything. Maybe you need something to help you in your relationships. Dr. Laura always will give you the advice there, right? So whatever it is that's your priority, you have to spend all time in each one of the 13 dimensions, but it becomes easy when you plan it. It becomes so easy. Don't let life overwhelm you. Don't let your body get broke down because you are too stressed out. What you do is you make a plan and you create the life balance wheel and you go for it. And then everything starts falling in place for you.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming, all the things we think we need to do, and it might be things that we feel we need to do. We might not even need to do all the things that are in our mind list that we carry around with us. And people talk about stress. I mean, that's where a lot of stress comes from, is just carrying all of these ideas around in your head, just and not being able to unload them anywhere or put them somewhere. And I think that that's one of the most important parts, to if you're really feeling overwhelmed and you're really feeling stressed, put stuff down on paper, write it down, make
Mm-hmm.
sure that it's out of your head and it's somewhere where you can actually look at it, and then you can actually do something with it. But to carry it around with you all the time, juggling all of those things, is exhausting. It is mentally exhausting, and it'll lead to burnout, and it will lead you to not getting anywhere. Like, you won't get to where you want to go. And so I really feel, oh, sorry, go ahead. What do you want to say to that?
So what? Right, you have to change the perspective. Writing it down does that. You're so right.
Yeah, it's very simple. The great things in life are simple, very powerful, and very effective. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about, kind of like being under pressure, right? A lot of these things can be easy to do when we're not under pressure. How do we stay true to our values and our principles when we're under pressure?
Have a daily practice. So what I do, for instance, I used to pride myself, and I realized, wait a minute, what you're doing is you are undermining your own integrity. And actually, it took somebody to say, you sound like a liar when you say that. And I wasn't lying; I was telling the truth, but I wasn't being straightforward. I wasn't using language that was direct. And I used to pride myself saying I could, be very successful by walking in the back door of a lot of offices first versus walking in directly in. And when I heard that, I was like, ooh, that's really eroding my integrity. So it was something that I needed to work on. And that was not being the flower child that was flowery about everything all the time. I had to reframe my thinking about language skills, even, look at the situation differently and build that integrity from the ground up, a grassroots program of who I wanted to be. And then
Yeah.
to keep the burnout out, I had to put intentionality in everything. If I want to make sure I'm drinking water, water needs to be available. If I want to make sure that I'm spending time in a walk around program in my work, I have to actually spend time with the people that I work with, And one thing that my father did talk about quite frequently, and he was very proud of his business adventures, was he would sort the mail every morning,
Mm.
and then he would at lunch drive around the building, and then he would look in the trash cans, and he would talk to everybody. He was known as $100 bill. If he saw someone working hard and he'd heard maybe that they were struggling, or something, he had a bonus program that was in his pocket, and you would ask him why, and he was an old school guy, right? And
Yeah.
the first one is, if you don't know where your money's coming from and what's going on there, then which was the mail, what's coming in. If you're not the first one to see things, doesn't mean he worked on it. He just was making sure that, he knew what was coming in the organization. And then you're not going to be successful because you lose touch. And then he would say, if you're not walking around and learning your employees' names, you don't know who you've entrusted your life, the lives of yourself and everybody in the building to. And he said you have to have trust between you and your employees. And then when you ask him about driving around the building, he said you have to know what's going out the back door. And it's a very simple concept. Was it micromanaged? Yes, of course that was a little. So, but he was old school. He was you see, I'm not young, so he was seasoned, and he realized that for him to build a mid-sized manufacturing plant in the Midwest that was a supply chain big house, He had to understand everything about the business. Did he have to do it all? No. But he understood, and he could hear from his employees what was wrong and where it was wrong, and he could get resolved that way. My point is, as leaders, it's up to us to set stability in the organization so that people can thrive. He always would remind us that people depend on the leader to make decisions so that they know that they're going to have employment. Mm-hmm. Their families are your families. And when you take that perspective, then you can make decisions that will help the organization thrive and those around you.
Yeah. And those things, like, that's really simple stuff. I go back to, and I bring this up all the time, the best things in life are simple. They're not complicated. We complicate things too much. And like him just building those relationships. And it's also like, that takes time, right? But what the heck else are you going to be doing that's more important than getting to know your people? What's more important than checking your mail, right? Knowing where things are coming and going, and knowing how your people are doing, having some sort, think we shouldn't have personal relationships with the people if we're a leader, right? The people that we work with, we shouldn't have these like close personal relationships with them. But how else? And there's a balance there, right? Everybody has their balance, but how are we going to be able? What did you say?
I said, you're right. You have to have healthy boundaries. He wasn't going out and drinking with them and having he had that boundary there, but they could come to him and say, wait a minute, this part is not being produced right, and my manager isn't listening.
Yeah. And they knew that he was invested in them. He knew about them. He knew where they were at. They knew they could trust him. They knew that he was present. He wasn't like in an ivory tower, with rolling with an iron fist. He was like down in the trenches, getting to know people and getting to know what needs to be done. That sort of stuff is crucial, especially if you grow too large and you're not able to do that. That's a different story. But if you're able to do that, having those touch points is really, really important. And it should be that way for our professional life. It should also be that way for our personal life. If there's problems in your personal relationships, it's probably because you haven't spent enough time with somebody to resolve the things. Maybe a limiting belief you have is that you can't have a difficult conversation, that you're not able to find the breakthroughs with somebody you need to find. But if we spend time with people, intentional time, we can and will come to a breakthrough moment. But we have to be bold in our communication and what we're trying to communicate with, but also being kind and tactful with the boldness. So all really good information, Rhonda. I love this. And I love just your message and how you're helping people, because it's all extremely important. And everybody, and I like to reemphasize this, not just business people, everybody benefits from these sorts of things, because this is how you change your life and change the life of others. So if you want to know more information about Rhonda and you want to connect with her and all that she does, go to her website, rhondaparkertaylor.com. If you're listening, it's RHONDA Parker, PARKER, Taylor, TAYLOR.com. Great conversation. Thank you so much. And what do you want to leave our audience with? Anything we didn't talk about today that you want to leave them with before we sign off?
What I would like to leave everybody is, remember that you are beautifully and wonderfully made. And if you're stuck in a rut, you don't have to stay there. Rob has given us a great platform to talk about the way that we can break through and become part of our passion and our purpose. And to do that means becoming unstuck and having movement. Movement means it might feel like it's large, but the journey is shorter with the first step. Put one foot in front of the other and you will get there. Just do it. And you know what? You'll feel better for each step that you take.
Yes, absolutely. You have to start somewhere. You've got to start with something. I encourage anybody out there who wants to take that first step in creating their own personal brand and creating that platform that makes them the authority in their space. You can check out the platform that we've created, the Pro Podcaster Academy. Join the wait list at robzwentz.com. Wonderful conversation with you, Rhonda. This has been another true testimony of breakthrough. Until next time, this has been the Unstuck Movement.